Yeah, greetings. His name is Imperial Majesty, and how is Imperial Majesty? Emperor Selassie I and Empress Medinai. Perfect balance of creation, modern father of civilization. Yeah, give thanks for the evening of thanks. Coming here live from Judah Just TV, and we're bringing some reasoning fundamental for the nation. Yeah, the topic of today is the national and cultural significance of a nation, you know. And it have African proverbs that say, until the lions learn how to write, this, every story will be glorified by the hunter. And it says again, same proverb but different statement of it. Until the lion have their own historian, the history of the hunter will all be glorified by the hunter. And it says again, until the lion tells the story, the hunter will always be the hero. Until the lion learns to speak, the tale of the hunter will always be favor the hunter. So these proverbs are very significant proverbs as we speaking about the history of our people and the significance of the culture and the national heritage of such. Now we're here with Brother Miley, who is a cultural political activist, and he is here to answer some of our questions that we have about our culture's national and cultural significance of a nation. So we could have more clarity, you know, in this form of reasoning, especially within the history and the development of our people. So for the past 20 years or more, you could say from the 80s to the 90s to the near 2000, we was striving on a cultural development within our nation, you know, and we had a lot of icons that we could look up to and aspire to be like. And now for the past 20 years, we don't really have no national icon that much to say that we could identify ourselves with on a moral level. You know, most of the cultural activities these days, if you ask me, is like very much immoral, you know. And we don't really get to honor our moral heroes, you know, who has done significant in their lifetime in our country.
True.
You know, we have some icons like Adeline Carrington. She was a runner, long distance runner. She won a lot of local races, and right now you don't even hear about her. Right now she had the most trophy in our house in Sign Hill, you know, when I was young, growing up. And right now she don't even be recognized as an icon. We have like people like Randy Chamjack, you know, is a real great sportsman, you know, dominate within the football arena, did a lot of great stuff, you know, as in his prime. And right now you don't even hear much about him. Even people like Pamela Ballantyne. These people has done tremendous as well over the years within their prime, you know, initiation, you know. People like Peter Durant, who is a bike rider, has done tremendous, St. Vincent locally and international, just like Pamela Ballantyne. And you know, people like these, I could call more, you know, but I don't really call everybody at the same time. We'll just leave space for the brother Eiley to introduce himself and give account of what I've already, you know, have said to bring forth to the people. Yeah.
Yes, greetings. Give thanks and praises continually to the Most High and the family of the Most High, Haile Selassie, King Rastafari. Give thanks and praises to King Haile Selassie and Queen Menen, Kwadamariai, and I give thanks and praises continually, the Alpha and the Omega. Yes, as I and I been taught China black brethren, and African brethren, that a nation without its history is like a tree without a root. So anyhow at all we start to venture into talking about our history, and then when we start talking about our culture, we know culture determines a nation. Because the voice of the nation, the action of the nation, the lifestyle of the nation is being reflected in the culture of the nation. And I, as an African people living in the West here, we were robbed of our culture. We were robbed of our history, knowing our history. So we come like a tree without a root, just like a dry tree, just ready for the fire. But because we were taught also by Toussaint Louverture that in killing me and destroying me, you destroy the trunk of the tree. But remember, the roots are there and they are very deep, and they shall rise to life again. So I know that I journey is a continuous journey. A journey based on experiences and real life. So what the brethren had emphasized earlier, it's a reality. You won't hear the names of our cultural ambassadors. You won't hear that. There are reasons for that. Now, the truth is being told to us daily, but we have been taught to ignore the truth. We have been taught that the truth is of no significance. So although the truth is immediately before us, it's like we yet cannot see it. Our people yet cannot see it because it is so simplified. And on the other side, there are the dainties of Babylon, the attractions of the society, which captivate the minds of our people. And it is being reflected in the actions of our people. For example, the way we operate is not the way we operated at this time. It's not the way we were operating and the way we were living before the time of slavery. So what has happened is like what was within us was taken out of us. And the culture that we have at present, that we embrace, is not a culture of us. The history we embrace is not a history of us. As the brother said, look at what is happening. Who get the glory? The hunter or the lion that is being hunted? True. The hunter gets the glory because he tells the story. And when he tells the story on his behalf with his influence and his agenda with it as well. So I and I as a people now coming to this light, what can we do to advance the culture and our history as a people? What can we do? We must seek to enlighten our people, because if we do not enlighten our people and if we do not stand up and speak when the time is for us to speak, what happens is that we put the power to evil, because evil continues to triumph because it is not being challenged. So I and I as a people, for justice sake, cannot remain silent. Meanwhile, our enemies triumph and triumph on our rights. Rise up, my people. Rise up, my people. And rise up. Give thanks.
What is a cultural ambassador, and what is the responsibility of such an individual towards a nation development?
Yes, my brother. A cultural ambassador is a person who projects the cultural expressions of a nation. A nation which is a group of people, that embody itself with regulations and disciplines and so on, right? So the cultural ambassador comes like the lifeblood of a country. Because a cultural ambassador is a person who enlightens a country or its people through the liberties, the true liberties.
Inspiration.
Yeah, the inspiration.
True.
And he works through creative arts.
True.
It is merely because of the creative arts, their ability to create. Because we are creators. And the reason why we fail to acknowledge ourselves as creators is because of the Western education which we have acquired.
Okay.
Because it denies us the thought that we are creators.
Okay.
See? So, as a cult, and when you look at the reflection of a cultural ambassador, you can know whether that person is a Europeanized person, a Eurocentric person, or carrying out the culture of Europe, or if the person is carrying out the Asian culture, which is of the Asian community, or the African culture, which is of the African community.
How critical is the cultural expression towards the next generation to really find value and substance that it could inherit something that is meaningful and significant to carry on the legacy of a nation? How valuable is?
Well, in order for me to have sustenance or anything, and especially among people, we have to develop what we call cadres or linkages. Now,
This is the definition of linkage, the action of...
yeah, we have to really be able to set up linkages among our people. In a sense now, the youths have to be leaders tomorrow.
Definitely.
So therefore now, our duty is to ensure that we deliver something of substance to our youths. And when we say something of substance, something that has moral value.
Naturally.
Something that is of ethical value.
Yes, sir.
So we have to be moral and ethical. Now, when we look at what's taking place in our communities today, and even within the wider world, we realize that morality and ethics are out of the door. And it isn't a mistake or it isn't an accident. It is something deliberate.
Right.
Because we must bear in mind there is something that is known as institutional oppression. And the cultural practices of today is being managed by these people in the institutional oppressive institutions. Hence the reason you find out you come out, you start in school, they may have a festival, whether it be calypso, whether it be carnival, whether it be a show or whatsoever the case may be, a pageant, a pageant or anything like that. Check it. Anyhow, you start to raise the consciousness or the awareness among our people of their culture, of our culture. There you become an adversary of this European culture.
Okay.
Because they have taught us to appreciate the European culture and not the African culture. And we can see it in practice. Even our constructions, the spirituality part of life, in terms of religion, our people gravitate to that which is of Europe, Eurocentric. Why? That's what we've been taught. And what you've been taught, after a period of time, it becomes a part of you. Because it becomes, there's a thing that you say is second to nature, a second nature, which is habitual. So it becomes your habit. So we embrace something that is foreign to us to be us. And that which is of us, we try to evade ourselves, evade it, and we try to avoid it. We try to distance ourselves. Yeah, we try to distance ourselves from it. So it is very important that we try and develop, me coming forward to it again, our youth, so that we could have that linkage to ensure, and we be the ones who are the teachers to impart the knowledge of African culture into our youth.
True.
Because if we, those who have the knowledge of, do not do it, who will do it?
True.
Then we will be further embodied by the colonial teaching.
Yeah.
I bet.
Yeah. How important it is for us to invest in our own cultural artists and ambassadors? How is important? How important? Because right now the corporate, as you speak, Europeans, corporate agencies, you know, is we are really promoting and basically sponsoring our cultural shows and functions. And as you can see, there's a immoral sense of promotion within it. Because even recently, Harun promoted a drink that they call Smalley. And we all know that Smalley is basically a little girl. And for they target our young girls with such a alcoholic beverage at such a young age, and we think nothing of it, is to show that we really have been demoralized, you know, from our natural ability to speak out and to object if something gonna benefit us or not. So how important is it for us to invest in our, you know, our own cultural ambassadors and artists? And another thing, because right now you can see the artists them that is having an input in our society today. They don't really have no moral values to share, as you can see, because they're more corrupt and destroy everything more than construct and moralize. So let me hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, it is being taught that who pays the piper calls the songs, or call the tune.
Right.
Who pays the piper? Who pays the piper? Who pays these artists around? As we talk about sponsorship. Now, the entertainment business is not being controlled by the ordinary people. Irregardless of what genre or what kind of format level of entertainment. Entertainment is being controlled by the people who run the media. We know what is the purpose of the media. The media is here to misinform our people. The media is here to advocate immorality. For example, we talk about culture, and we want to talk about culture in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, in Urine. Now you ask in St. Vincent and Urine, what is your meal that you gravitate to? That we're talking about culture, things that you eat. What's your meal? Yeah, breadfruit and jackfish. Okay, give thanks. But although breadfruit is grown here, jackfish is being fished here. When you go on activities, tell me with truth and with honesty, what are the products of food products you see on display? Piece of roast pork, piece of chicken, alcoholic beverages, and strong hard liquor. Is that culture? Tell me, is that culture? Now, as my brother mentioned earlier on about the smallies. Now we know the term smally is not as it was yesterday. The term smally today is something specifically targeting young ladies. And very youthful ladies who know coming into that maturity, that level of maturity, not even having that full experience, you know, and it is being done so that men in authority people in authority, in high places, could come and abuse, misuse these youths and exploit these youths and get away freely because the law permit that. For example, that's why I said in my song, they make legislation as soon as they get there. They make their legislation. And what is the purpose of their legislation? The purpose of their legislation is to silence the nation. And to support their legislation, they use the police, they use the army, and they use the magistracy to jail us and silence our people. So our people being living in a world of fear. So even at festivals, you have to be singing to please the master, because the master is the man who pays the salary. What he wants you to sing, you have to sing.
Yeah. So that's the question now, as I'm referring to ask, what is the importance for us as an eco-social community to invest in our own?
Very good.
Yeah.
So this is why I said in the early part, who pays the piper calls the tune.
Yeah.
So we know, I and I as a people, as a conscious people, we can have people advocating for us and working for us, but we must be in a position that we could finance them.
Yeah. Because most of our cultural artists, as you know right now, is not being promoted, such as Abu Zanima, Yafitu, Lava, even you yourself as an icon, and it have many other like Patrick Jr., Ozzy Delmo. A lot of people don't even know about these people and they exist in the international world. But amongst our own, people don't even know about them.
No, to strengthen what you say, my brother. Look, for example, now it's carnival time. Right?
Yeah.
And even some of them, our brothers and sisters who have made tremendous contribution to this art form, you won't hear their name mentioned.
And that is so unfortunate.
Yeah, that's quite unfortunate.
Yeah.
And that is because what? The people and them who are in authority to advocate, they keep their mouth silent when justice should be taught, should be spoken of.
So they undermining the...
Well, this is why evil triumph.
True.
And if evil triumph, who triumph? Wickedness. Yeah. Wicked men.
So this is no doubt of the kind of atrocities and the killing and the crimes that are happening in our communities today.
No, what is happening in our communities today? Many people find it strange. It's not strange. It's just a reflection.
Right.
And because
you look at what is being cultivated.
Yeah, because you look at the way even I and I as a people deal with our children, deal with our women, deal with our brothers and sisters around us, handle domestic issues. The way we deal with those things. But when you do check out culture, our culture would not have allowed us to reach in this negative position. Never. Never, because our culture is a culture of, is a culture of enlightenment.
Right.
And morality.
Right.
And integrity.
Right. That's why I say in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, the cultural fabric of our people is totally different than we're taking place now.
Because at that time also, there was a political rift or a political war, what they call an ideological war in politics. Where in those days, you would have had what you call the Soviet Union, Russia, right? And then you would have formed, because Europe had gone into Africa and cut up Africa and share it up among themselves and so on, right? You find out a lot of countries in Africa were colonized. They were colonized. And Europe had to make sure that they hold it so that they could receive the riches, the benefits, so that they could advance Europe. Right. Meanwhile, us as black people live in poverty. See? So as they use our wealth to flourish on themselves, they use our strength also. And what they did to us What we saw with our eyes, after a while we gravitate to it as human beings. And we have to realize how human beings operate. We are here to gravitate. Always gotta have movement. This is why we cannot fool ourselves and remain stagnant, because now is not the time to retreat, and now is not the time to take a defeat. The battle must be won. We must regain, we must recapture our culture. Look at it. 4 of us in a room as black people and people in the Caribbean, but because some speak in French, some speak in English, some speak in Spanish, it is difficult to coordinate a relationship, a conversation. If it wasn't for the internal expression within us, that spirituality, that we could look at one another and develop means of communication by just signs and expressions, rather than even using words. That is what keeping us. So this is why, in this time, we cannot fool ourselves. We have the strength, we have the support. When Haile Selassie went into England, remember he's a black man and a leader of Africa. But because the powers of the Most High was around him, within him, before him, behind him, he was able to triumph in Europe. Right. This is the spirit, the Irish, I as brethren and sisters, have to develop it in ourselves. No. So that when we see our European people, we do not see them as gods and leaders of us and see ourselves as inferior beings. No.
Now, final question, right? Yeah, now we realize we have a conflict of interest. What is the conflict resolution to make a better way for nation?
Well, my brother, unity is strength. All our answers to all our problems lie within us. We of ourselves now have to cultivate this level of equality within us and stop suffer from this colonial inferiority complex and come to the reality of accepting ourselves as ourselves. We have to start encouraging our people to look within themselves, because the answer is not outside, the answer is inside, it's within us. You see? So we need now to organize ourselves. What we need to do now is organize ourselves so that we could have something that we go towards in an organized way. Because individually, we will be defeated. With unity, we have strength, because there's strength in numbers also. We have to be very mindful of the penetration and the infiltration of the colonial mentality within our organizations. And we have to try our best to deter it from coming in and from taking that dominancy among us as a people. We have to allow the African mentality, and we have had it. Haile Selassie has put in a process, Marcus Garvey has shown us. History in itself is a process which continues to repeat itself. And as it repeats itself, we have to put ourselves in the position to take advantage of what can come from any repetition.
Okay.
Give thanks.
Give thanks. Yeah, people, there you have it. Reason with the word I bringing the reasoning to the people. I'm going to have a positive discussion about the national, cultural significance of a nation. So this is Kebra coming to you live from Judah TV, bringing the reasoning once more. So,
yeah, well, brethren, I give thanks and praises very much that we have had this kind of reason also. And what is this? What this telling me is a step by step after this step now, what we can't, as you ask, how would we bridge? Or how would we deal with this transformation?
Right.
Yeah, and it's very, very important, my brother.
Very
Because even though you have a problem and you cannot foresee solutions, this means you cannot act. Because when you act, you're looking for positive results. So when you're looking for positive results, you have to know definite. So it ain't no guesswork in it.
True.
You know? And among us, when we do look at it, there has been a direct effort to stifle our cultural awareness.
Definitely.
And to put pressure on individuals or groups or organizations that tend to promote a cultural awareness.
Yeah.
Now, you look at it. Finances, this is why I say last year, you know, we have to balance what we're doing. We cannot be carried away by spirituality.
Well,
We cannot be carried away by the material earnings.
Yeah.
Because we need it, and we cannot neglect ourselves material earnings. Because the material earnings and the financial earnings in this system will help us to be able to advocate.
Right.
We use them as vehicles. We do not use them as gods. We use them as vehicles to further our advancement.
Right.
Yes, my brethren. So this is what we have to do now. Encourage people to depart from praising their material earnings that they have and put it to work within the interests of I and I as a people
Yeah.
and as a nation.
Yeah.
Give
But
thanks to
just
this.
as to this, it has some importance that the national and cultural significance bring out within our fabric. The significance of self-governance, the significance of collective security, the significance of international morality, and the significance of universal brotherhood. So, when you socially cultivate morality and certain conduct within a people, it allows these practices to materialize within the reality. That people could self-govern themselves, and they could have collective security, and they could have international morality and universal brotherhood, which is the balance, of harmony in life. So peace and love, unity to the
Strength.
nation. Yeah, one love.